everyone. Welcome back to the Nostalgic Nerds podcast, where we look at the tech that shaped our world and sometimes the tech that shaped how we see it. I'm Mark.
And I'm Renee. And this week we're talking about something close to both of us, film technology.
Yeah, this one's kind of personal. I worked at a couple of computer shops in LA that catered to the Hollywood crowd. Won't drop any names, but there was a pretty well-known one. We had all the software for writers and production houses and directors and producers. We sold this one software, Movie Magic Budgeting and Scheduling, and that thing was expensive. It was like $1,500 or $1,800 a pop, and because production companies are thieves, they want to try to I get they're not
thieves. It's creative film accounting. That's why they call it film accounting and not accounting, right? Yeah.
Well, they would never want to buy the software, and so it got a little tricky. But they had copy protection, all that. Anyways, but there was all sorts of different folks we met in that organization.
And I worked on the other end of the pipeline, IT for Mann Theaters. If you guys remember, Mann's Chinese Theater. Somebody owns it now.
They still exist, right? Mann does exist, right? Don't they?
Probably somewhere. It expanded so big, so fast on the Titanic money. Everybody got drunk off the Titanic money, right? And so it turned into... Anyway, like when the Titanic money ran out and it turned out that was just an anomaly and there was no real, yay, we're coming back to Hollywood. They kind of went away. But here's what I will say. They took seriously. They really spent a lot of money on good accounting platforms that were attached to, the store inventories, and that automated the ability to put in orders with, their vendors, and you got to learn a lot about the business. And I thought the most shocking thing about, especially Titanic, most shocking thing about Titanic was when they negotiate that. So these guys go to Show West, right? They see the movie stars. They talk to everybody about the movies, and they do all that, right? That back in the day. Yeah. And you'd meet Will Smith, and they'd talk about The Matrix, and you were on the know. It was fun. But what you were really there to do was see what the product was and see whether or not you had stores, i.e. theaters, that you would want to bring that to. And then you would go cut a deal. But that deal usually was the studio makes all the money the first 2 weeks or the first 4 weeks, right? And so if your movie has legs, the theater doesn't make any. The theater makes all the popcorn sales, all the candy sales, all that, right? And they incur the cost of the screen, the technology. But after that first 4 weeks, and this is why Titanic's so important, that thing ran for years. Yeah, I saw it in the theater 3 years apart. Saw it twice, right? It was crazy, the legs it had. So theaters were making a ton of money because they were still selling tickets a year later when the cut was really 90-10. They only owed 10% to the studio, and they were making 90% of that box office. And so when a film had legs like that, it really made the theaters a lot of money. So yes, I spent time on that side of it, and I got to watch everything go from analog to digital. I got to watch, theaters no longer get big cans and reels and cut them together, and like they didn't do that anymore. And the real importance of, securing that digital product, because at the end of the day, when the guys from IT steal it and make CDs of it and give it to their friends and family, they go to jail. So so I learned all that, right? That's what I learned working in film.
I remember there was, because we worked with a bunch of, kind of digital production houses and stuff. And there were literally movies because remember jazz drives, they would transport the content on the jazz drives. This was the biggest thing that you could, you could put anything on. But, so anyways, between us, we both seen different sides of the business. Growing up and being in LA, you can't help but be attached to entertainment in some way, shape, or form.
But before all the pixels and projectors, the shape of the frame mattered, right? The famous Academy ratio of 1.37 to 1 wasn't designed for art. It was an engineered compromise, right, Mark?
We were talking about it before we recorded, unfortunately. We should have recorded
our awe and wonder at the fact that, oh my God, it's only the 19... We couldn't microwave a potato, but we came up with this one as a culture. I can hardly believe it. Go ahead.
So, 1930s, when Hollywood is figuring out how to fit sound onto 35 millimeter film, the optical soundtrack took up space. So they shrank the image a little, and that rectangle, the Academy frame, became the global standard. But okay, so I just simplified like a whole bunch of really cool technology into like one sentence
Go
there.
ahead.
So it's like, okay, first there was no sound. And then wait, we've got to put sound because
Not
people
everyone
weren't
can
coming.
read.
Yeah, not everyone can read. You got to draw people. Like we're going to hear this over and over this whole while we talk about this stuff. Exhibition of film, every generation, essentially, you have to draw more people because people are like, you know what? Been there, done that. And so what's the thing? Sound. Like this is just a mind-blowing revolution, right? All of a sudden, you can hear Charlie Chaplin speak where you couldn't hear him before. But, the film standard for that, there's all these sort of logistical problems. Okay, I'm projecting film. And I could, play a record, a phonograph, if I wanted to. Sure. And some did try that.
Yeah.
But syncing that up, and then when you have to change the reels and syncing it and all of that stuff, no bueno. No bueno. So how do you do it? Well, you got to put the sound onto the film. Well, how do you put it onto the film? There's like the film is the film, and the frame of the negative is the frame of the negative. So what do? You flip the negative and you put a little dots, on the side. And there it is. You shine a light through it, and that's the optical track. And it's
and
just,
it takes
I don't know.
it takes that shade of gray. And what it is it just looks like a UPS code down the side of the frame, right? And so, and some of these things are darker than others, but they go from being clear to being black. And in between there is how loud the sound is and what it is, right? So it takes in the sound, creates an optical print of that. It then goes into the projector. The projector sees it, takes the optical print of that and turns it back into sound. It is the craziest idea ever. Ever.
It's so awesome. It's the actual literal waveform encoded in dark and light.
Yes.
And then a sensor, picks it up because it the light is darker and lighter, and it then turns it back in. It's like, that's the actual waveform. How nuts. And
it's 1930s. Like, that's what's nuts. We went from, and you're right, Buster Keaton and the words underneath and and a piano player in the room, because that's how you gave sound to the comedy, right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes orchestras, right? You could still go to Catalina Island and see where they used to go watch.
Oh, that would be fun.
Right? We could still go do that. Next time you visit, we'll go. So that's how it worked. To think that turned into, I always think back to, like, when was Wizard of Oz? Like, when did they make that
38? 39?
Yeah. Okay. 39. How much, like I just look back at the World War II footage, like combat footage, World War II. There's almost none in color. Yet, in 1938, you went to that film and you sat down in that seat and you watched in 35 millimeter black and white what you thought was going to be like any other movie. And then she opens that door and she's in Oz, and oh my God. It's color. It's not just color. It's Technicolor.
It's like this vibrant, well, it wasn't Technicolor yet.
But it's unbelievable, right? To think that we went from the Dust Bowl to that.
Yes.
Right?
Literally.
Like, literally. Like, I think that, to me, like, that sums up that whole thing. And when I think back about that, like, but they did it with sound, right? We did the exact same thing with sound. We decided that idea, the idea that film is not just a visual art, it's an audio art too. That's pretty amazing. That's a pretty big leap in culture, I think.
Yeah, it's so, like, we're so jaded because we'll never experience that, that transition ever again. But, I don't know. Very special.
The iPhone sent us on the wrong direction, but it was the perfect compromise, right? Every theater could show it and every camera could shoot it, and it held together through 2 decades of cinema.
Yeah. And then television, and everyone in Hollywood just panics.
Yeah, so we entered the era of the widescreen wars, when the movies stretched themselves to stay special. So picture Hollywood around 1950. Everybody's shooting in 1.37 to 1, right? And then, bam, TV shows up.
Yeah, the little black and white box in the living room, and I love the part in Back to the Future, right? When he says, "Nobody has more than one television," you know. It's like, and they roll, and he was rolling it around, and
Yeah, yeah, because
that's
it was on a
1950.
cart. It was on
Yeah, it
your
was on a little
TV
cart.
cart.
Yeah, you know, yeah, one little black and white box in the living room rolling around. Why would you go out when Milton Berle is right there and your pajamas are with you?
Right? Hollywood's answer. Make the screen so big you can't fit it in your house. That's how we're going to make you come to a film. We're going to make that experience of widescreen so much more visually striking that not only will you come out of your house, but you're going to pay me even more money.
Yeah,
There.
yeah. So the first of these kind of widescreen formats is Cinerama, and they all had great names. I love the names of all of them. They're perfect names. But what Cinerama is three synchronized cameras, three projectors, and a curved screen. It's like it wraps around your head. I forget the like how many degrees around it is, but it's I think it's almost 200 degrees, or maybe
Yeah.
even more than
You
that.
you still see it in your peripheral vision
Yeah, yeah.
if you're sitting still.
I love Cinerama. There was one by us. It was really cool. But that's a wrapping around your head. It was kind of part movie and part amusement park ride.
Then Fox debuts CinemaScope in 1953. Instead of three cameras, they used an anamorphic lens that squeezed a wide image into regular 35 millimeter film. Projectors unsqueezed it, and then voila, instant wide. That's another thing we got really good at, right? We can blow up 35 millimeter to 70
Yeah.
millimeter. We can shrink 70 millimeter down to 35 millimeter. We might lose a little of the space, but it wouldn't be enough for you to care. Yeah, we got good at that.
Yeah, CinemaScope. So, this is probably what started me down this whole Renee, we've got to do this. We've got to do this because I watched like a whole history of CinemaScope,
Oh,
and it's like, and it starts with this dude in France, and he makes this patent around anamorphic lenses and all that, and you shrink, when you're actually filming, the lens takes a wide format and then shrinks it down onto the film, and then in your negative, then you process it, and it's the same size, and it goes back out the other way. And that's cool and all, but these lenses are very expensive, and they have artifacts, right? If you get too close to it, you get distortion around the edges of the
so
theater.
like Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close up, and my close up looks like a fisheye. Like it's like my face is on.
Yeah.
It's like it's got
Yeah.
the worst like filter ever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you should see some of these early lenses. They're super thick, so it's a big old piece of curved glass. And Bausch and Lomb ends up being the company that builds a bunch of these. Bunch of these, but it even has like a name. The projectionists called it the CinemaScope mumps because everything looks a little bit swollen if it gets too close to the camera. Yeah.
So audiences didn't care, right? The robe looked massive next to TV, and Disney jumped in with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in 1954, the first major non-Fox CinemaScope feature. That's a good one. Don't you think that's a good one to do? That's a good one.
Yeah.
20,000
It is
Leagues.
a good one.
Yeah.
I think, and yeah, because I went too far into the CinemaScope like pit of information. So Fox basically owns CinemaScope. Like nobody else can do this widescreen format. Nobody else gets to touch it because Fox basically, controls the patent. They had licensed it from this French dude for like $50,000 or something. They paid Bausch and Lomb for the lenses. They had access to all the lenses. They're very expensive to manufacture. So basically, nobody gets access to this. Disney is like, well, we want to do this. They say, let's do 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And they pay an arm and a leg to try to make this work. They had to build all these different underwater housings, and they're huge. They're huge. Arc lights the size of cars. And by the time they finish, Da, 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 da. A, a new one comes out. Panavision had already fixed all of CinemaScope's distortions. And so that's like the total irony, right? Hollywood spends a ton of money on bleeding edge technology that's basically obsolete before the premiere even happens.
I mean, that whole decade was a laboratory. VistaVision, Todd AO, Panavision, Technorama, everyone chasing width and spectacle. And for good reasons, right? Like those big screen. We were just saying, one of your favorite movies is Ben-Hur. Like there's no Ben-Hur without 70 millimeter widescreen. There's no Ben-Hur, right?
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's I don't know. I just love it. So that's where I get hooked, right? So I had a buddy that was in high school who was obsessed with movies and old formats, and he would drag me to these kind of revival screenings, and they still have them in LA. Real film, not VHS, not it's legit stuff. And they would show them in the old formats with the widest film stock. There was the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood. I think the Egyptian still does these like Thursday night 70 mil features. The Cinerama Dome in Orange, and I think there's one on Sunset as well.
Still one on Sunset.
Yeah. There's only a couple of those, right? And normally, like nothing is filmed in Cinerama anymore, right? But you can kind of fudge it and project, these wider screen formats onto a bigger screen. You just sit right in front of that big giant screen, the curved screen, the lights, dimmed, and it was the immersive experience before immersive was a buzzword.
But that's what widescreen was really about, restoring the wonder of it all, right? Like we just said, like going to a film used to be an event.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have that anymore.
No, we don't have that anymore. Yeah. I mean, the picture quality is so good.
Right? Like my eyeballs are the lowest common denominator, and I wear glasses, right? Yeah. Like, yeah.
I mean, but like, and this, my kids, I think they kind of understand it because obviously there's a size difference. But if you think about 1950s television, even through the 60s, they're not even square, right? The boxes are square.
Yeah.
But the tubes are round and there's curved.
Yes.
And they're, the resolution is trash. And
when you shut it off, it all went down to one tiny black hole and then disappeared because it was a tube. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, so it's not like, sure, you could watch, sitcoms and game shows and stuff like that. But watching a movie on that little screen, with really bad resolution and black and white.
Yeah, you watch like what? I don't know, Star Wars, I guess. You watch Star on the back of a TV, like on the back of your plane, like seat.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it was like watching. And that's even a better picture than we had, right? Like, you're definitely. Yeah. You had to play with the contrast. Like if you wanted to see the wrinkles in somebody's face, like Walter Cronkite's face, just turn up the contrast.
It's not, I don't know. I think this is why I love those kind of old format movies, because it's such a stark difference between, the different types of media of the time. And I don't see us having that contrast anymore. Like it's not going to happen. So, but that race around wide formats and displaying bigger, more vivid color, bigger and wider, it works for a while, right? And so the golden age of Hollywood, that kind of 1950s, 1960s period, works for a while. But the next obsession in film tech is fidelity.
So once the screens got wider, the race was on to make it sharper, richer, and most importantly, I think, louder. Just louder. So Paramount's VistaVision turns 35 millimeters sideways. So if you think about how this works, intuitively your brain is thinking, oh, it's a film reel and there's the images, but then you can actually turn sideways and you basically double the frame size. And Todd AO, which is a kind of production house company, a film production and post-production company,
they come along with this 65 millimeter negative and a 70 millimeter print, and then this crazy innovation 6-track magnetic sound. And the first one to get that is Oklahoma in 1955. And because of the size of the print and the technology to play that magnetic stripe, it's different than a Academy format and an optical projector audio. You have to have special equipment to read the magnetic strip track and play and it basically flip the negative or the film to its side. And so they had road shows around these movies, and Oklahoma in 1955 is the first one.
Oklahoma, and then it just keeps going from there. So, My Fair Lady, Sound of Music, like pick a West Side Story, like pick a musical. If it was a great American musical, they pulled out all the stops. They were beautiful and brutally expensive. Only flagship theaters could afford the projectors. So I would guess if it was Hollywood, it would be any theater that any of those people would go to watch it, right? And possibly the one in Westwood. Like that would be the one where you would go see it. You'd get all dressed up. You'd go to the big theater in Westwood and go see that film. And it would cost you a pretty penny, I would think, or at least a pretty nickel. Expensive, and only flagship theaters could afford the projectors.
35 millimeter kind of remains a workhorse while Panavision refined the lenses, and then Dolby quietly, sorts of reinvents the sound. And, if you think about the 60s, you rattled off a bunch of them, right? Like, were the musicals as event, kind of an event in the 40s and 50s as they were in the kind of the late 50s, early 60s? The late 50s, early 60s is like the period for the stereotypical big-time Hollywood musicals. South Pacific and, My Fair Lady and Oklahoma and all of these, like, they're huge. My mom loved The King and I. Oh, that was her favorite.
There you go. People love Fiddler. So, but so I would go back to the idea, though, that having done those musicals, there's, you have an orchestra, you have a chorus, you have singers, you have quartets, you have, like, there's a lot. And then you have all the Foley, because it's all live action sort of too, right? So, like, it's not necessarily you're watching, the Sound of Music and she's standing on a stage singing. No, she's on a hill singing her little heart out, right? But to get the Foley, get the sound, get the wind on the hill, get the, like, to create that soundscape, you need more than one optical channel. So exactly. Guess what? We need to reinvent this, because if we want to create that rich, immersive environment that is a musical, because you fall for it every time. When people just start singing out of nowhere, you're like, yes. You fall for it every time because it's immersive, right? They did it on purpose. It seems normal. Like, yes, that's what makes them great movies. But that immersive sound experience is a huge part of it. And to do that, we needed multi-channel recording and multi-channel playback. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, this whole reinvention of sound is a huge. Yeah.
And so that's when my chapter starts, right? It's the late 90s. I was running IT and we were still built around, I swear to you, they would come and deliver like 5 cans of film. Somebody's job would be to cut all that film together, put it on the reel. And if you got 2, because you were going to run it on 2 screens, you got 6 if you were going to run it on 6 screens. Like, that's how that worked. And you're running them back to back because you're trying to get it in as much as you can, because you're going to sell as much popcorn. Because remember, you're making no money on this film if you're a theater. You're only making money. So think about that, though, because what they're asking them to do at this point is say, I need you to give up the idea that optical sound was how we were going to do any of this. And now it's going to be this multi-channel, like Dolby magnetic stereo. And you're like, sounds fantastic. And they're like, here's how much it's going to cost you. And you're like, are you nuts? No. Like, why would I do that? Like, that seems crazy. Like, I don't have, like, a company that makes money on popcorn. Like, they're not going to give that up on every screen in every theater, right? They're going to pick and choose, and they're probably going to pick markets where they think it's going to sell, and they're going to get one of those prints. They don't want them on the rest of it. So think about what that means if you're doing that, if you're doing that film, right, you're either limited to the theaters you could show the film in, so now you're limiting how much money you're going to make, or you have to do a reprint of that in optical with crappy sound. Like, that's your only two choices, right? And it seems to me like they always went for good sound.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by the time, the 70s and 80s, for the most part, magnetic readers are available, but not necessarily all of it's like stereo. It's not the whole, broad Dolby digital, decoded and all of that. But, you definitely have this mixed experience. Like, the person in, some place in the middle of Kansas doesn't have the same experience as, Times Square. That's just not.
Right. But digital was always knocking at the door, right? The servers, the scheduling systems, the networked projection, how we were moving things around was definitely changing. And the investments being made on the theater side were starting to turn digital. There was no interest in adding, more Dolby magnetic. They were looking for a different answer. Yeah. And so I was there when that was happening. So 10 years later, it's only 10 years later, the whole thing has flipped over. Right. And so that means every theater decided, okay, well, we're going to need to see something different. And what was I looking at? I was watching a transition, right?
Yeah. So that on the infrastructure itself, it was moving around.
Yeah. I mean, projectionists didn't trust that executives worried about, piracy. Studios were still shipping 50-pound film cans. It was chaotic. It was a chaotic way to make money. And then at the end of it all, you reported your numbers right back to Nielsen because they wanted to say what the box office numbers were on Monday morning. Like, it was just a crazy business. It was crazy business.
During this time, you have this sort of evolution of the sound standards as well. So Dolby, there's so many different Dolby standards. Dolby A, Dolby Stereo, 76 Dolby SR, that's surround, in 86, then digital sound in the early 90s, Dolby Digital, DTS, SDDS, and each of them needs a different set of readers and wiring. So the infrastructure in the studios themselves, or not in the studios, but in the theaters, all the speakers have to change, and the decoding systems have to change.
And Dolby was the one doing the change. So I don't want you guys to think that I was running around theaters ripping out Dolby sound systems and putting in new ones. Like, that wasn't my gig. Dolby came and did that. And then when they were done, they would certify the theater. So Dolby would come back and double check their own work and then come back and say, okay, this is the right sound. And they would put sensors everywhere in the theater. They would run a film.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then they would come back and certify it as complete. So they would do that transition for you. And you paid a lot of money for it, which is why I think you would see maybe a Dolby Digital in a couple of theaters, because at some point they had done those first, but the next ones they turn over are going to be like SDDS, right? Because it's just, that's the way they're going to do it, because it's the newest technology, but you'll still be able to see theaters in Dolby Digital because, you still have digital theaters. So, yeah, I mean, it was a lot. I don't want anyone to think I was doing any of that, but that's a lot of tech to sort out. And that is a full-time job for the theater people that run the actual theaters, not home office where I hung out, but the people who are actually managing the technology in the theaters. It's stuff for them to try to figure out, and they have to keep pace with the studios. Otherwise, they lose the chance to make money.
I remember because this guy that was a buddy of mine in high school, he would always want to try to find the theater with the best sound, or this movie was had this
Sam
particular
does that. My husband does it.
And like all these different Dolby standards and stuff, like I can't keep them straight, so I have no idea. Like, is DTS good? Is it a D? It's got a digital. Is that as good as SDDS? Is that good? Is that I don't know. I just want to hear like what the director intended. That's what I want.
Okay. All right. You don't want the best your ears can get. You just want whatever that old man could hear. I'm for that. That's good.
I think, yeah, I guess. Gosh, man. Okay, so I'm going to tell this story around one of the first dates Meredith, Beth, and I went on.
Uh-huh.
We were, I think, I was still in high school. She was still in high school. and it was a
Because
double
you married
feature.
your high school sweetheart. I just want to. Yes, you did.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
and it's 30-something years later.
Uh-huh.
So the first dates we go on is a double feature, and this is it: Alien and The Exorcist in
And you're such
70
a cute
millimeter.
couple.
and it wasn't like it was early on when we were dating because this guy, it was my buddy, was Brent. We went with him as well because he wasn't going to miss a double feature of
Oh,
Alien
right.
70 millimeter. And, like that doesn't happen all the time, so of course you got to go see that. And of course it's the best film print and all of that. It was just, the jump scares in those movies, it was a different thing.
I don't think I'd want to see The Exorcist in 70 millimeter anywhere. I can hardly watch it like on the TV. I there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah. No, you could feel everything. And okay, another Exorcist story, because it's not as good. It's similar. Okay, so in the like late 90s, early 2000s, like right when Keeley was born, The Exorcist comes back around in a newly restored whatever, right?
Oh, I remember that with and it has digital sound now, so it's better sound than the
like
original
crazy
release.
Whatever, yeah. And so we lived literally next door to a movie theater, and Keeley is like 2 months, 3 months old, right? And
is this
we were
the condo.
Yeah, there's a condo, right? We were living in the condo. And so we were like, oh, we'll just walk over and watch the movie. And I was like, I don't know. And we can't leave Keeley at home, obviously. She's 3 months old. She's like, well, we'll just bring her. Because she slept. We loved to watch movies, and she would just sleep on me.
Oh, okay.
Put her in the little baby Bjorn or whatever. And then, so we go and we get in there and we're watching it. And okay, the thing with The Exorcist is not so much that visually it's all that. I mean, it's a good movie, but the sound design, and the soundtrack and the music, all of this is it's top notch. So with this new digital recording and all of that, Keeley starts getting like really uncomfortable. She's sleeping. And I've got her on my chest, the little baby Bjorn and stuff, and the really dissonant sound is playing, and she's just not having anything of it. And I just look at Beth, and I was like, I'm going home. I'll see you in a couple hours. And I just walk out and take. So. Yeah, because
my dad took me to see heavy metal when I was like 10. It was awful. I'm still afraid of green glowing things.
Yeah, well, she was 3 months old, Yeah. But that's the sound, that's it rattles. And I guess, now with the way that home speakers are, you can kind of get some of that, but you don't get quite the exact same, the same thing. But yeah.
But I mean, that's what did for me. Probably for you because we're nostalgic nerds. But I mean, that's what digital never quite replaced, was like the presence of film. Like there was something.
Yeah.
There's something about that that I think you don't get when you talk about the art form.
Yeah.
When you start calling it content, I think that's where we all got crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something about that. Like the booth, right? The sound of the film, sound of the theater, the sounds, that hushness. And I don't know.
Yeah, a time when you're sitting in a theater with 150 other people and you can hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
Like it's that experience that we just don't do anymore.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about digital switchover. So by the late 90s, now, when do we say digital switchover? Because you have some of the audio in digital, but everything is still projected on film. But by this time, the 90s, late 90s, film had kind of perfected itself. Hollywood was falling in love with pixels, essentially. Right.
George Lucas. So I saw Star Wars in the theater. I cannot tell you how mind blowing that scene is with the TIE fighter going down the trench. And he's like, and Luke's trying to get that honey hole, like, and when I was 10 at the time. You sit there and you look at that. And for the first, I've been watching musicals from the 1950s up till that point, right? I'm watching Dick Van Dyke Show on TV, and that, none of it was real. None of it was really there, but we're watching it. Like that to me must have been what it was like sitting in that theater in the 1930s when Dorothy opened that door. Like it was another one of those things. So episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Okay, just so we're clear, I just want to put this out there to the ether. I've never seen anything other than the first Star Wars film. I saw the first one. I can see why The Empire Struck Back. I mean, it made sense to me, but I have no idea how they did it or what the outcome was. I have no idea how it went. Right.
You're missing.
I guess. I didn't see Game of Thrones either, but I learned Dothraki. You tell me. All right, so Attack of the Clones in 2002, the first major feature shot entirely digital on the Sony HDW F900.
So this is the first 1080p, 24 frames a second, technically impressive, but visually kind of,
I thought it looked
soft.
sterile, right? But the economies were irresistible. A film print cost thousands. A DCP on a hard drive cost pocket change.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, did the format, my gosh, again, whole armored cars did nothing but shuttle films around to theaters all day long, right? It was a crazy business. This changed everything in a lot of ways.
Well, so at one of those places I worked at, it was when I first met you, Todd A.O. was a customer.
Mm.
And you just go, and Deluxe was a customer as well.
Oh, yeah.
So you go to these places and, there's racks and racks and racks of film, and if they're working on a print, it's expensive. It's not, there's chemicals and there's film stock. And, if there's issues, then it costs money to replace, fix and replace. And, there's wear and tear that has to be addressed. And it's not
climate control, moisture control. There's like so much you have to do for that thing just to survive the season, let alone the next 50 years, right?
Yeah. So I think, it's the price difference, definitely a change, that cost is just, night and day. But there's another side to that, right? The studios get control, right? Encryption keys, timed playback. The distribution of the film, which is not film anymore, is all through software.
And then came the DCI spec in 2005, the rule book for color, encryption, and resolution. It made the mass rollout possible. I'll give it to them. Hollywood, when it wants to make money, will figure out how to get along. Right? Like I will say that about them. In the effort to, move technology forward, they as an industry usually did a pretty good job.
Yeah. So this thing comes along called the virtual print fee. And this is basically like a scheme, not a scheme in a negative way, but a regime or whatever to help theaters replace and upgrade, like a subsidy essentially from all the distributors. And by 2013, basically 35 millimeter is like almost completely gone.
And they wouldn't have been able to do it without that, to be honest with you. I don't know how they would have ever made the money to. It would have been the loss of a bunch of theaters because, you would have to, liquidate the real estate. Yeah, that would have been sad. So, again, it's like a projector. You think about a projector. Projector's a projector. Right.
You put the film in and it rolls through and there's a light and it shines on the silver screen. And there's some speakers, through whatever. Okay, fine. But these digital projectors, there's a light and there's a lens, but there's no film. And there's basically hardware and software. And it's a server basically running there. And it's got redundancy and RAID and backup. All of that stuff. It's not. Like that stuff's expensive.
We used to train and certify projectionists. That was a legit job that people would belong to a union. There was projectionist unions.
Yeah.
And overnight, that was all gone because projectionists just became file managers, and those files can run in batches, and those batches could be controlled by timers on the computer. So you really don't need anybody anymore. Like you really could click a button, and that thing would run itself. Yeah.
And it's kind of a culture shock, I suppose. The booth itself is less mechanical and more administrative.
Yeah, well, what they gained was consistency and cost savings, but they lost, the nostalgia, the texture, and the
Yeah.
craft. And you know what? I guess I would say that's what I miss. I remember the heyday of talking about film like it was art, right? Not content, art.
Yeah.
I miss that. Even the ones that are really good, who you would say like that's an art film. Like there's a
Yeah.
couple every once in a while you'll see one and be like,
Yeah, sure.
wow, but I wish I saw it in a boutique theater who ran like art films, like because that would have been a really interesting experience, right?
What was the last art film you saw?
Hideous Kinky.
Hideous Kinky. Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, it's this little film done by Kate Winslet where she plays like this hippie who runs off to Marrakesh with her two kids.
Oh, yeah.
And it ran the art film circuit and never saw it again. It's such a great film though. But I mean, but there was like 2010 or something crazy like that. So yeah, it just
Did you see Sinners, the Ryan Coogler movie?
I did not.
Okay, so something interesting about that. Meredith, Beth, and we saw that in the theater. It was actually filmed on film, and I'm pretty sure it was done on 65 and converted to 70.
Wow.
Yeah, so like it still happens.
I feel like it's a lost art. I feel like they probably don't even teach that at the American Film Institute anymore. Like here's how you look at we're gonna go get the Fujifilm out. Like I just don't feel like that happens anymore.
Yeah, well, some other time maybe we come back to something like this, but the film stock itself and the development process, there's certain movies that you could look at and you go, oh, I know exactly what film stock that was on.
Right, yeah.
It was like, oh, that's a Kodak 1742 or whatever.
Yeah.
And you just don't you don't get that with digital at all.
No. But you do open the door to people who don't have a lot of money to make films. So you extend the art by losing some of what you thought was art, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, indie filmmakers, lab bills don't exist. Instant dailies, global distribution.
It democratized creation while centralizing exhibition. That's Hollywood's logic in one sentence. Like, of course, that's where we would go, right? We would go digital.
Yeah. And, I think to some degree, audiences just didn't notice, right? What matters, I guess, to them really is more story, not sprockets. Not the clicks in the film wheel. So
right, I don't think anybody cares how Titanic was created or the fact that it cost $300 million. It's just that it was a really, really, really great story, and it was incredible to see.
Come on, really, really, really great. Come on,
no, it was. That was a good time in the theater. It was a long time. You did have to take a potty break, but it was a good time. I loved seeing that in the theater. I could watch that movie anytime. I could watch it anytime.
I know you love that movie.
So this brings us to now, right? Premium projection, LED walls, and AI everything. Right now, you can go to the Sphere in Las Vegas and watch Dorothy in Oz in that crazy setting of the Sphere. I can't even believe that. That's crazy.
I've seen some videos of that. That looks pretty cool.
Right? I have vertigo though.
Yeah.
It would be so. Okay, so now we have IMAX laser, Dolby Cinema, 8K projectors, pristine images that still can't guarantee a crowd. Are you still surprised by the exhibition tech?
I guess, fortunately, in London there are a few kind of premier theaters, right, in Leicester Square, and they have the kind of the HDR laser projection. It's cool.
Don't they, don't they
Yeah.
take that incredibly pristine image and not to make you sick or give you a headache, they have to dirty it up again? Like, that's the thing that I don't understand. Like why isn't good enough just good? When my eyeballs and my stomach tell you we're done, then we should just be done. Why do we have to keep pushing that envelope on visual? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
How come it's not multisensory? Floors that vibrate, seats that get hot near the volcano, that kind of stuff. Like, it has to be other sensory stuff. I think we've hit the wall on sound, and we've hit the wall on visual. Unless it's VR, then we're talking a whole different landscape.
We didn't talk about 3D because there's a whole thing about 3D. We didn't go into that. There was smell-o-vision in the 50s. And
See?
it was a thing. What was it, like 4D or something? Some places had this,
Oh, yeah, the seat would rumble when there was
the seat would
a
rumble and
rocket that
stuff.
would take off, or
Yeah,
yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't know. Feels gimmicky to me. Like, unless it's really, it's almost like, when the movie is made specifically for that, to show off that technology. Like when somebody's, like was it Jaws or something, and he's coming and swims at you with his jaw.
Gravity,
Yeah.
when she's like floating through the space station and stuff's flying right by her head. You're like, okay, I get
Yeah.
it. Right, I get
Yeah.
it. Like, you don't have to be that obvious for
Yeah.
sure.
Obviously filmed in 3D. Thank you very much.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. I still think that there's some cool stuff out there, but when what's his name, Peter Jackson did the Hobbit trilogy, a tragic trilogy of movies. The Instead of 24 frames a second, they upped the frame rate, and nobody could exhibit them except for a few theaters, and nobody liked it anyways. Like,
Yeah.
everybody, 24 frames works because there's reasons,
Right, right, right.
that's how your brain works. And upping the frame rate just kind of made people like feel weird. Yeah.
Well,
But
it's the same
the
thing like when you
cool,
watch Saving Private Ryan, they take out every other frame, and it's like this constant jump cutting,
yeah,
and it's like it's really disorienting.
yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
start to
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like you have a concussion. Like, yeah, weird.
But the cool, like what's cool for the cool kids right now is on set, rather than, in the camera. I guess somewhat in the camera. It's LED volumes. This is cool stuff.
Pioneered by The Mandalorian. Instead of green screens, productions use curved LED panels showing real-time environments. The camera tracks the perspective so the background shifts naturally. Let me tell you, it's like I watched this. I wish I could remember the movie. Bruce Willis is in it, and he plays this actor, and it's Robert De Niro is his agent, and Bruce Willis is playing himself as a really guy he's just difficult to get along with. He's not coming out of the trailer. They make him look fat. They're like, you are fat. Like, it's a whole thing, right? But you get to see how the actors actually work, and you get to see, like, there's two people in a scene. They're both in different places, and they're both on green screen, and neither of them are talking to each other. That's what
Yeah.
it meant to act in that world. To put
Yeah.
you on a fake thing and then put you in front of a 2/3, like, curved, environment, and then say, act here. Like, that's a
Yeah.
completely different experience for the artist. Like, that's just a
Yeah, yeah.
completely different experience. Good for them. Go Mandalorian. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, no, it's a huge, really cool innovation. The screens emit the light, reflections are real. Actors' faces glow with the environment instead of post-production fakery. And the whole, like, we said it, right? That the background shifts naturally because of this whole tracking perspective. But, like, the tech to do that is really complex, because it's not like an old Alfred Hitchcock movie where, the person's driving in the car, you see,
And then,
Janet Leigh,
yeah.
right? Yeah. It's not like that, right?
And
As
it's
the,
hardware store, bank, hardware store,
yeah.
bank, hardware store, bank.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. It's not like that. It's not like that. Like, it's the same concept, but what ends up happening is the computer, hooked in with the LED volume, and the camera, it says, well, I'm shifting the camera this direction. And so the background moves with the right perspective.
That's crazy.
So it is freaking cool though. Like, so yeah, LED volumes, and you'd be so surprised at how many movies are using LED volumes now.
Well, that's just it. How
Yeah.
fast it spread. Commercials, music videos, indie films, virtual backlots. It's all like how we work now. It's
Yeah.
no longer green screen. So you guys who have green screens and you're using your Zoom account are way behind the times. You're way behind the times, you nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need an LED volume now. So, but cameras finally catch up. Large format sensors, huge, the sensors, I mean, you've seen some of these, the CCDs on these cameras are huge. Precise lens, metadata, even lenses now chase imperfection again. You can get glass that flares and distorts just like the old cinema, which is cool.
And right behind that comes AI, synthetic actors, de-aging, voice doubles, and even full digital stand-ins. So don't get me started. Like if Jennifer Aniston can't be the voice for what the hell ever, then Jennifer shouldn't get the job. She shouldn't get to rent her voice out to AI so someone else cannot work. Like I just have a problem with the whole concept of it all. At the same time, though, this is it. This is where we're at. Imagine nowadays you can cut a film because you used to, if you were an actor, you'd have to go back into the studio and do like 20 grunts for the Foley because they didn't catch it when you were being chased by what the hell ever in the like when you were out and shooting.
The dude holding up the microphone, he's got a sandwich in his other hand, and he's just looking around. And his microphone wasn't in the right spot.
So now you're in the post going, my foot. Oh, like this is what you do. And then do like 30 feet of that, right? So now you don't have to do that. AI will fill it in for you. Like I think in that regard, that's an amazing step forward for stupid crap you'd have to do in post. But at the same time, you're right. Here it comes. Are you guys ready for it? Yeah.
Yeah, this is like an existential question. If you can conjure a perfect digital extra, and digital extras exist today. Like, not only do they exist today, they've existed for almost 20 years. But, resurrect an actor, what happens to the craft,
The craft becomes about effectively creating background actors that don't try to steal scenes and putting Vincent Price in all your films. I mean, that becomes the true art of the craft is could you pull that off and everybody would believe it.
Wouldn't that be I wonder, because, animators have been doing, little Easter eggs in animation forever, for as long as there's been animation. So, I mean, digital Easter eggs, digital animation, that has to exist as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fun, actually.
Yeah. You put all your friends in as digital, extras.
Right. Be like, oh my God, that's me. Then invite them all to the party because they were all in the film, except nobody was, and it doesn't matter because you got to spend down all the money. It's deja vu. Early cinema used painted backdrops and miniatures. We just traded glass for GPUs. That's exactly what we did.
Yeah. The art keeps chasing realism while inventing new illusions. Maybe the next revolution isn't higher resolution, it's emotional authenticity.
Probably. History loves a reboot. If I've learned anything, it's that.
All right. So from Academy frame to AI, it's all the same pursuit, catching light in a way that moves people.
And maybe that's the real magic, not the medium, but the feeling. No, I won't say that. The real magic is the fact that we started in the 1930s on optical sound, and then we find some way to use multi-track, and we're like, yeah, magnetic's the way to go. And they're like, no, it's digital. So let's go back to optical. What? That's the story. That's the real magic. I can't believe we had to go backwards to go forwards. There it is.
And the film stock stayed the same.
The film stock stayed the same.
What?
Yes.
What? I know. Look, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I hope you guys loved it as much as we did. From optical soundtracks to virtual stages, the tools keep changing, but the goal never does to make light and sound feel alive.
Every format has been chasing the same thing, immersion. And somehow the more perfect we get, the more we miss the scratches and flicker that made movies feel human.
That's nostalgia in a nutshell. It's not just the picture. It's how it makes you fit sitting in the dark.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening to the Nostalgic Nerds podcast.
And if you got your own film format memories or projection booth stories, I swear to God, if any of you are listening and used to run films, Jane, call me. I'd love to hear about it. And drop us a line at the nostalgicnerdspodcast@gmail.com.
All right. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, like, share, slap, all that stuff. Tell your fellow nerds. Until next time.
Stay nerdy, folks.